I want to take 2 minutes to talk to you about Christians and praying together. When Christians pray together, they experience a unique bond through which God can and will do great things. I want to read to you an excerpt from T.W. Hunt out of his book, Prayer Life. He said, if we examine the expansion of the church in the book of Acts and the epistles, we see convincing proof of the power of prayer. The early church had innumerable obstacles. Christianity was unknown, and it was opposed by the authorities wherever it spread. It suffered constantly from the false accusations and rumors, but by the end of the first century, it had spread in exactly the geographic pattern commissioned by Jesus to Jerusalem, Judea, and Samaria, and the othermost parts of the earth. This rapid geographical and ideological shift could have been accomplished only by supernatural forces. That's a powerful statement. The instrument of expansion was the church. And the force behind the church that it was using was the power of prayer. So from the earliest days, the church has always been at its best when people have come together to pray. And if we want to see the power of prayer in these last days that we're living in, that the early church see, then we need to pray as they prayed. We should look at prayer as they did, is indispensable. It was an indispensable source of unbelievable power. Acts chapter 2 said of the early disciples, they gave themselves continually to prayer. We have to give ourselves to prayer. The fact is, if we want to be a powerful church, if we want to be a prayerful church, then we got to pray. When we look at the challenge of the early church, the one side of the situation was here a mighty Rome and a wicked Herod. But the other side of the ledger was the church. And some may say, well, there's a lack of realism to think that a little band of people praying together could change the force of a Roman government. It did. And change the destiny of the nation? It did. To break open prison doors? It did. And it's hard to believe we may say that prayer can be that powerful. It is. And if we say that, then we aren't aware of what happened in the early days of our nation, in times of renewal and revival. Prayer is the most powerful force in the world simply because we're talking to God. Prayer is the most powerful force in the world because someone has wisely said, prayer is the force that moves the hand that moves the world. And that leads us to two truths I want you to get from this short message. Prayer changes things. Prayer changes people. Prayer changes the situations around us and the things that we pray about. And prayer changes me and it changes you when we pray. Write that down. In life, oftentimes, things look like they're against us. When it looks like we can't possibly win, when it looks like it's the end, we're about to be overwhelmed, which that's where we lived most of the time. It's then that we need to remember that prayer changes things because prayer releases God's power. I want to leave that with you today and challenge you also to pray with someone from your church, someone that you've just met or whatever. Pray with them, get together and pray about the situations in your own life and the situations in their life that you'd like to see different. If you want your church to change, pray for that. If you want your own life to change, pray for that. If you're praying for, or you see some situation in someone else's life that you'd like to see different, pray for it. God will answer prayer. Write it down, ledger it. Write it down and share answers to prayer with one another. It'll encourage your heart. I'm glad for answered prayer, and I'm just so excited that God answers prayer. May the Lord bless you.